Today we will be dividing fractions and mixed numbers. So let's take a look at our first problem here. It says to divide, and we're going to write the answer in simplest form. And so when I see a 4 and it doesn't have a fraction, it just means I can write that as a fraction as 4 over 1. Now I'm dividing by a half. And so whenever I divide, I end up multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to keep that as 4 over 1, but I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 2 over 1. And what happens here is I look for any cross-canceling, but there is none. So 4 and 1 can't reduce, 2 and 1 can't reduce, so I multiply across. And I get 8 over 1, which is just 8. And that is our answer. So it seems kind of strange. We started off with a number and got a bigger number when I divided by a fraction. But you're going to get that every single time. When you divide a small number, smaller than 1, into a number, then you're going to end up with a bigger number. And here's why. Let's go ahead and draw a bar real quick. And I'll divide this into 4 sections. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's my 4 sections. Now I'm dividing by a half. Well, if I'm dividing by a half, what I actually do is I split these pieces, these 4 parts, into 2 pieces. So there's 2 pieces, 2 pieces, 2 pieces, and 2 pieces. So now let's count up all the pieces. And so when I count this up, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when I divide by a fraction into a number that is bigger than 1 in this case, or any number, when I divide a fraction into a smaller number into a one that's larger, I end up with a bigger number. And so that's what I ended up getting here. So that's something that you should look for as you're doing these problems. So here, again, I'm dividing a fraction here, but it is bigger than 2/3. I'm dividing this 2/3 into 8/9. So I should expect a bigger number. And we're going to do the same sort of thing. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal. And so when I do that, I end up looking to see if I can cross-cancel. And there is some cross-canceling here. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 3 goes into the 9 3 times. And then I multiply across, I've got 4/3. Well, that's an improper fraction, so I'm going to change that to a mixed number. Divide 3 into 4. So 3 goes into 4 one time with 1 left over. So I write that answer as 1 and 1/3. So 1 and 1/3 is what that ends up equaling. So same sort of thing here. We're going to divide 3/8 by 3/4. Well, even though this is a bigger number than 3/8, it's still going to make a bigger number than 3/8 when I do the division, because I'm dividing by a fraction. I'm dividing 3/8 into, or by, 3/4. So I'm dividing that 3/8 into parts that are 3/4. And so I'm going to end up multiplying by the reciprocal. And so when I do that, it should be a 3/8, not a 3/4 here. So let's change that real quick. So 3/8, that number stays the same. I multiply by the reciprocal. So I look for some cross-canceling, and I see some right here. 3 goes into 3 one time. 4 goes into 8 2 times, and what's left over on top? Well, whenever everything cancels, it's really 1 that's left over. So when you multiply across, I've got 1 over 2. Say 1 times 1 made the 1, 2 times 1 made the 2. So again, 1/2 is bigger than 3/8. So when you're dividing by a fraction, you're making a bigger number. So expect that with this next one. You see, I'm dividing by 1/3 into 4 and 1/6. So I'm going to get a bigger number than 4 and 1/6. And so when I go ahead and do the work, I need to change this to an improper fraction. So 4 times 6 plus the 1. So 4 times 6 plus the 1 divided by 6, always over the denominator. So that makes 25/6, and I'm going to multiply by 3 over 1. I change this to the reciprocal, so I multiply by that reciprocal, and I look for cross-canceling. 3 goes into 6 2 times, and I multiply across. I get 25/2. Now I got to see how many times 2 goes into 25. Well, 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 5 2 times with 1 left over. So that's 12.5. See, and I expected that. I expected to get something bigger than 4 and 1/6. And 12.5 is bigger. Well, now we're dividing by a number bigger than 1. So when you divide by a number bigger than 1, you're going to get a smaller number. So let's write down that one rule that we had before. Dividing by a fraction equals a bigger number. and dividing by something larger than 1, is going to equal a smaller number. So it's kind of like a benchmark, something to look at as you get your answer to see if it makes sense. So let's go ahead and do the work. We got 3 times 4 plus the 3. So 3 times 4 plus the 3 all over 4. So we do that work. We got 12 plus 3 makes 15/4. And we're going to divide by 2 times 6 plus 5. So 2 times the 6 plus the 5. So that ends up all over 6. So that's going to end up being 12 plus 5 makes 17/6. So we go ahead and do that reciprocal, multiply by the reciprocal. We're putting 6 on top, 17 on the bottom. Not a lot of reducing, but we do have some. So the more reducing you do, the less you have to do later on. So 2 goes into 4 2 times, 2 goes into 6 3 times. Multiply across, I've got 45 over 34. So all I have to do now is divide 34 into 45. See how many times it goes in there. Well, it only goes one time. We do the subtraction. We got 11 left over. And so there's our answer, 1 and 11/34. So again, smaller than what we started with, and that's what we expect. Well, same sort of thing here. We're dividing by a number bigger than 1, so we expect the number to be smaller than 5 1/3. So let's go ahead and do the multiplication and then some addition. That makes 16 over 3. So I got that by doing 5 times 3 is 15, plus the 1 makes 16. And then I'm going to divide by 1 times 5, which is 5, plus 4 makes 9/5. So I go ahead and take the reciprocal of that second fraction, so 16/3 times by, and that becomes a 5 over 9. Well, no reducing here. No reducing because the numbers diagonal from one another don't have any factors that are the same. So I multiply across, and 16 times 5 ends up making 80. 3 times 9 makes 27, and I do some division. So I do 27 into 80. And it ends up going in there 2 times. And when I do that, it makes 14. And 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Do some subtraction there. Borrow a bit. Makes 26. So 2 and 26/27. So that's our answer, 2 and 26/27. So it kind of makes sense. We expect to get something a little smaller than 5 1/3 because we divided by 4 and 4/5. So it's almost like dividing 6 by 2, and that would go in there 2 times. So, or actually 6 by 2 makes 3 times, and this is almost 3, so it kind of makes sense. Here, the Burger Barn has 46 2/3 pounds of ground beef. How many 1/3 pound burgers can be made using the ground beef? So what are we dividing by? Well, we're dividing by 1/3 because we're trying to find out how many of these 1/3 can fit into 46 2/3. So that's why we're dividing. So we do 46 2/3 divided by 1/3. So I'm going to change that 46 2/3 into a improper fraction. So 46 off to the side. 46 times by 3 makes 18. Carry a 1. 138. And then we got to add on that 2, so that's why I'm getting 140 over 3. So I'm multiplying by the reciprocal. And look what happens. I got 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. Those cancel out. Leaves me as 140. But what does that represent? Is it pounds? Burgers? What is it? Well, let's see what we're trying to do. How many 1/3 pound burgers can be made? Well, 140 of them. So 140 1/3 pound burgers. Well, let's try the next one. Roberto needs some roofing tiles to be cut from a large tile. How many tiles are each, how many tiles that are each 14 3/8 inches in length can be cut from a larger piece that is 105/8 inches long? So which one do we divide by? Well, we divide by the one that we want. So we want tiles that are 14 3/8 inches long into the bigger one, which is 105/8 inches. So 105/8 inches divided by 14 3/8. This will tell us how many tiles we're going to end up getting. So we do the multiplication and some addition. That makes 805 over 8. And we're dividing by, now off to the side I'd have to do 14 times 8, so that makes 32, carry a 3, makes 11, and then plus the 3 makes 115, 115 over 8. And so I'm going to go ahead and multiply by the reciprocal, so I've got 805 over 8. Don't change that one, but you multiply by the reciprocal, so it's 8 over 115. So now we have to do some reducing. So I see that the 8's cancel out. That was easy. And I see 5 goes into these two numbers because they both end in a 5. So I'm going to divide them both by that. And so off to the side, I just do 805. See how many times 5 goes in there? One time with 3 left over. And 5 goes into 36 times evenly. And 5 goes into 5 one time. So 161 now. 161 over 1 times by 1 over, and then I have to do 115. Divide that by 5. So 5 goes into 10 2 times. And with that 1 left over, 5 goes into 15 3 times. So 23. Now, it seems as though those might be prime numbers, but look at 23. Can you multiply 3 by a number to get a 1 at the end? I can. I can multiply that by 7. So I bet you 23 goes into 161. Let's just try it. I'm thinking it's 7 times, because 7 times 3 makes 21. And so I carry the 2. 7 times 2 makes 14, plus 2 makes 16. It does work out. So that means 23 went in there 7 times. So 7 tiles is the number I can get out of that 105/8 inch long tile. Here it says a hiking trail is 6 2/3 miles long. It is 4 exercise stations spaced evenly along the trail. What is the distance between each station? So we're dividing by 4. We're seeing how many even groups go, 4 of them add together to make 623, or 6 2/3. And so that's what I'm dividing by, is the 4. So 6 2/3 divided by 4. And so I go ahead and multiply and then add. That makes 20 over 3. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 makes 20. And then I'm multiplying by the reciprocal. So we can go ahead and do some division here. 4 goes into 25 times, and there we've got it. So 5/3. Now we just want to change that to a mixed number. 3 goes into 5 one time with 2 left over. So 1 2/3 miles is the distance between the two. And we kind of expected a number that was smaller than 6 2/3 because 4 goes in there. We add that 1 2/3 up by 4 times, and that ends up making that 6 2/3. Again, 4 is bigger than 1, so we expected it to be smaller. Well, the next one, Jamel buys a strip of 25 postage stamps. The strip of stamps is 21 7/8 inches long. How long is each stamp? Well, we're going to divide 21 7/8. The length of the stamps, a strip of stamps, all connected together, and we're going to divide it by 25 stamps to find out how long it's going to be. Now, our answer should be a fraction, because 25 is smaller than 21. So I know I'm going to get a fraction as a number. So let's do some multiplication here. We got 21 times by 8, and so that makes 8 16, and then count up 7 more. So it makes 175. So I have 175 all over 8. Now I'm dividing by 25, so I'm going to write that as multiplying by 1 over 25. And I've got 25 as a common factor, because when numbers end in double zeros, 25, 50, or 75, you can divide by 25. How many quarters make $1.75? 4 quarters make $1. 3 quarters make 75 cents, so that must mean 7 is the amount of times 25 goes into 125. Well, no more cross-canceling from there. We're going to multiply across. 7 times 1 is 7. 8 times 1 is 8. So 7/8 inches is the length of one stamp. Those are the types of problems you're going to see on tonight's homework. Good luck.